Arrival of the visitor. Liam stepped out of the sleek silver pod onto the soft, glowing ground of the Zerithian planet. The air was thicker than Earth's, but it smelled faintly of something sweet, like fresh fruit. Around him, the landscape shimmered with strange beauty. Tall, crystal-like trees that pulsed with light, rivers that glowed a soft blue, and distant mountains that seemed to hover in the air. It was nothing like Earth, yet it felt oddly peaceful. As Liam adjusted his breathing mask, a figure approached. It was Era, his assigned host, and the official representative of the Zerithian people. She stood tall and graceful, her translucent skin catching the planet's strange light. Her eyes, large and shimmering with a soft green hue, studied him curiously. "Welcome, Liam of Earth," Era said in a melodic voice. "You honor us with your presence." Liam smiled politely, though he felt uneasy under her intense gaze. "Thank you, Era. I'm honored to be here and excited to learn about your culture." Era gestured for him to follow her along a glowing path. "You will learn much," she promised. "We Zerithians value deep connections, and you will be part of our greatest tradition, cultural exchange." The words sounded innocent enough, but there was something in her tone that made Liam wonder what exchange really meant. Still, he pushed the thought aside. He was here as humanity's ambassador, and it wouldn't do to start off by questioning their ways. As they walked, Liam noticed more of the planet's strange details. The ground felt soft, almost alive, as if it adjusted to his every step. Small creatures resembling floating jellyfish bobbed around them, glowing faintly. Era waved her hand, and the creatures floated away in perfect synchrony. "You control them?" Liam asked, curious. "Not control," Era corrected. "We share understanding. They are part of our ecosystem, as you are now part of our world." Her words carried a weight that Liam couldn't quite place. Before he could ask more, they arrived at a tall, spiraling structure made of what looked like living crystal. It sparkled under the twin suns, casting shifting rainbows across the ground. "This is your dwelling during your stay," Era said. "We designed it for comfort, though it may seem unfamiliar at first." Inside, the structure was just as alien. Walls glowed faintly, and there were no clear edges. Everything blended seamlessly. Liam's quarters were simple. A soft, floating platform for sleeping and a strange, circular pod that Era explained was for hygiene. "This," she said, gesturing to the pod, "is our shower. It is an essential part of Zerithian culture." Liam raised an eyebrow. "A shower?" "Yes," Era said with a smile. "We believe in sharing our purity. It is a way to bond and show trust. You and I will share this space as part of our cultural exchange." Liam blinked, unsure if he'd heard her correctly. "Wait, you mean we share the shower together?" Era nodded, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "It is a tradition of great importance. You will find it refreshing and enlightening." Liam struggled to hide his discomfort. On Earth, sharing a shower with someone was deeply personal, even intimate. But here, it was apparently just cultural. He didn't want to offend Era or disrespect her customs, but the thought made him uneasy. I'm not sure I understand the purpose," Liam said carefully. "On Earth, we don't usually share showers like this." Era tilted her head, her expression unreadable. "It may seem strange to you, but it is a core part of who we are. To share water is to share life, trust, and understanding. It is the ultimate gesture of unity." Liam hesitated, his instincts warning him to tread carefully. But Era's gaze was steady, and her tone was calm. He realized that refusing might jeopardize his mission. "All right," he said finally, forcing a smile. "I'll try to understand." Era's face lit up. "Wonderful. You are truly open-minded, Liam of Earth. I knew you would be a worthy participant." Despite her words, Liam couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this shower tradition than Era was letting on. As she left him to settle in, he stared at the glowing pod, unease twisting in his stomach. He had come to this planet to represent humanity, to learn and build bridges. But in just a few hours, he was already questioning how far he was willing to go for diplomacy. As the twin suns began to set, casting the sky in hues of green and gold, Liam stood at the edge of his quarters, looking out at the alien world. It was beautiful, yes, but it also felt like it was hiding secrets, and tomorrow he'd have to face one of them in that strange, glowing shower. Suspense hung in the air as Liam wondered, what exactly had he signed up for? The alien ritual. The morning light on Zerethia was unlike anything Liam had ever seen. Twin suns cast overlapping halos of gold and green across the crystalline landscape, making everything shimmer as if dipped in liquid light. Despite the breathtaking view, Liam's thoughts were heavy with unease. Era arrived promptly, her graceful movements almost hypnotic. She carried a translucent container filled with a shimmering, viscous liquid. It caught Liam's attention immediately. "This is preparation," Era said, holding the container toward him. "It purifies the water for our ritual. Today, you will truly become part of our culture." Liam cleared his throat. "Right, the shower ritual." Era tilted her head, her expression soft but unreadable. "You seem uncertain. Are you uncomfortable with sharing space?" "On Earth, it's a bit personal," Liam admitted. "Showers are usually something people do alone." Era smiled, her translucent skin glowing faintly. "On Zerethia, water is sacred. It is not something we hoard for ourselves. Sharing it is our way of connecting, of trusting. You will see." Liam followed her reluctantly to the ritual chamber. The space was unlike anything he had seen before, a dome made entirely of translucent crystal, with water cascading from unseen sources and pooling into glowing streams that ran along the floor. The air was warm and humid, filled with the faint scent of something sweet and floral. At the center of the chamber was a large, circular platform surrounded by a gentle mist. Era gestured for him to step onto it. "Stand there. The process will begin when we join the stream." Liam stepped onto the platform, the surface cool and slightly pliant under his feet. Era joined him, carrying the container of liquid, which she poured into a small basin at the edge of the platform. As soon as the liquid touched the water below, the entire chamber lit up with soft, pulsing colors. "What's happening?" Liam asked, his voice tinged with alarm. "The water is alive," Era said calmly. "It responds to our presence. Do not be afraid. It will not harm you." Before Liam could ask what she meant, the water around the platform rose, forming a dome of liquid that shimmered and swirled like a living thing. He instinctively reached out to touch it, feeling a strange warmth and a slight tingling sensation on his skin. "This is the beginning of the bonding process," Era explained. "The water will learn you, and in return, you will learn it." "Learn me," Liam repeated, his unease growing. "What does that mean?" Era turned to him, her green eyes glowing faintly. "Our water is not like yours. It is infused with nanobiotics, tiny life forms that collect and share information. When we share this ritual, the water connects us, understanding both of us and creating a bond." Liam froze. "So it's not just water. It's some kind of technology." "Technology, life, culture, they are all the same here," Era said. "Do not fear. It is painless and natural." Liam's heart raced. He wanted to step off the platform, but the dome of water around them seemed to thrum with energy, as if it were alive. The tingling sensation spread across his body, not unpleasant but deeply unsettling. "Why didn't you tell me this before?" Liam demanded, his voice rising. "Because understanding comes through experience, not words," Era replied calmly. "You are experiencing Zerethia as we do. Trust the process, Liam of Earth." He wanted to protest, but the water had begun to change. It seemed to flow through him now, not just around him. He felt an odd warmth in his chest, a strange sensation of being seen, as though the water itself was looking into his very essence. Images flashed in his mind, memories of his childhood, moments of triumph and failure, faces of people he had loved and lost. It was as if the water was sifting through his life, cataloging every detail. "What is this?" Liam whispered, his voice barely audible. Era placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch cool against his warm skin. "It is learning you, and through it, you will understand us." The colors in the water grew brighter, swirling faster. Liam felt a sudden surge of energy, a pulse that made his heart race. He gasped, his body stiffening as the water seemed to reach deeper into him. And then, just as suddenly as it began, it stopped. The dome of water collapsed, falling back into the streams below. Liam staggered, breathing heavily, his body tingling from head to toe. "That was intense," he said, his voice shaking. Era smiled, her expression serene. "You have completed the first step. You are now part of the Zerithian bond." But Liam wasn't so sure. Something felt different, something he couldn't quite explain. His skin seemed to glow faintly, almost imperceptibly, and there was a strange clarity in his mind, as if the world around him was sharper, more vibrant. Era turned to leave, gesturing for him to follow. "Rest now. Tomorrow, we will continue." Liam hesitated, staring at the streams of glowing water around him. He had come to Zerethia to build bridges between their species, to learn and understand. But now he felt as if he had given away something he didn't fully understand himself. As he followed Era out of the chamber, a single thought lingered in his mind. What had the water learned about him? And what was it planning to do with that knowledge? Unintended consequences. Liam woke the next morning feeling different. It wasn't just the lingering warmth from the alien water. It was something deeper, something he couldn't quite explain. His body felt lighter, his mind sharper, as though a fog he hadn't known was there had suddenly lifted. As he sat on the edge of his strange, floating bed, Liam noticed his reflection in the crystalline wall across the room. His skin had a faint, almost imperceptible glow, like the shimmer of morning dew under sunlight. His heart sank. Something had changed, something he hadn't agreed to. Before he could dwell on it further, Era appeared at his doorway, her translucent skin glinting in the golden morning light. "Good morning, Liam of Earth," she said with a serene smile. "How do you feel after your first bonding experience?" Liam hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "I feel different. What exactly did the water do to me?" Era stepped closer, her expression calm but unreadable. "The water has harmonized with your essence. It has learned who you are and made small adjustments to help you adapt to our world." "Adjustments?" Liam repeated, his voice tinged with alarm. "What kind of adjustments?" Era gestured for him to follow her outside. "Come. It is easier to show you than to explain." Reluctantly, Liam followed her through the shimmering corridors of the Zerithian dwelling and out into the open air. The landscape was as breathtaking as ever. But Liam couldn't shake the growing unease in his chest. Era led him to a nearby stream, its waters glowing with a soft, blue light. She knelt by the edge, dipping her hand into the liquid. "Watch," she said. As her hand touched the water, it began to ripple and change color, shifting from blue to green to gold. Liam watched, mesmerized, as the water seemed to respond to her touch, dancing around her fingers like a living thing. "Your turn," Era said, looking up at him. Liam hesitated. "I don't think." "Trust me," Era interrupted gently. "You are part of the bond now. The water will recognize you." Taking a deep breath, Liam crouched by the stream and extended his hand. The moment his fingers touched the surface, a wave of energy shot through him. The water rippled violently, then stilled, glowing a brilliant white under his hand. Era's eyes widened slightly, the first hint of surprise he'd seen on her face. "Remarkable," she murmured. "What does this mean?" Liam asked, pulling his hand back as if the water had burned him. It means the bond is strong, Era said, her voice soft. Stronger than I expected. Liam stood, his unease deepening. You keep talking about this bond, but I didn't agree to this. You're changing me without my consent. Era rose to her feet, her calm demeanor unshaken. The bond is not something you agree to, Liam. It is a natural process. The water connects us, helps us understand one another. It is the foundation of our culture. But why me? Liam demanded. Why did it react like that? Era hesitated, her gaze flickering toward the stream. For the first time, she seemed uncertain. There is something unique about you, Liam of Earth. Something the water has never encountered before. Her words sent a chill down his spine. What kind of something? Before Era could answer, a low humming sound filled the air. She turned sharply, her expression suddenly serious. We must return. Now. What's going on? Liam asked, his pulse quickening. Era didn't respond. She grabbed his arm and began leading him back toward the crystalline dwelling. As they walked, the humming grew louder, accompanied by faint vibrations in the ground. When they reached the dwelling, Era pressed her hand to a glowing panel, and a section of the wall slid open to reveal a hidden chamber. Inside were rows of translucent tanks, each filled with glowing liquid. Suspended within the tanks were humanoid figures, their forms blurred and indistinct. Liam's stomach turned. What is this? Era faced him, her expression unreadable. These are prototypes, attempts to replicate the adaptability of your kind. Liam's breath caught in his throat. Replicate? You're experimenting on humans. No, Era said quickly. These are not humans. They are constructs, created using genetic templates we have gathered from visitors like you. Liam stepped back, his mind racing. That's what the water was doing, wasn't it? It wasn't just bonding with me. It was analyzing me, collecting my DNA. Era didn't deny it. Your biology is extraordinary, Liam. Unlike anything we have encountered, your adaptability could save my people. Liam's chest tightened with anger and fear. Save your people. By stealing from mine. Era stepped closer, her voice calm but urgent. We are not stealing. We are preserving. Our species is dying, Liam. Our ability to adapt has diminished, and without your help, we will not survive. Liam shook his head, backing away toward the door. This isn't cultural exchange. This is manipulation. Era's expression softened. You misunderstand. The bond is mutual. The water doesn't just take, it gives. Haven't you felt the changes? You are stronger now, more aware. This is not theft. It is evolution. Liam stared at her, his mind a whirlwind of emotions. Part of him wanted to believe her, to see the Zerithians as desperate rather than deceitful. But another part of him couldn't ignore the unsettling truth. He had been changed without his consent, and now he was part of something far larger than he had bargained for. As Era stepped aside, giving him space to leave or stay, Liam knew one thing for certain. Whatever was happening on this planet, it wasn't over yet. Discovery of the truth. Liam paced the quarters Era had given him, his thoughts racing. The revelation of the tanks filled with humanoid figures had shaken him to his core. Every instinct screamed that he was being lied to, manipulated. The bonding ritual had changed him, and the knowledge that the water had been analyzing his DNA without his consent was too much to ignore. He couldn't trust Ara, not fully. If she wasn't telling him everything, he needed to find out the truth on his own. As night fell on the Zerithian planet, the crystalline dwelling dimmed, its walls pulsing faintly with soft light. Liam waited until he was sure Ara had left, then slipped quietly into the corridors. He retraced his steps to the hidden chamber, where the tanks of glowing liquid had been stored. When he reached the chamber, the door was sealed. A glowing panel next to it pulsed faintly. Liam hesitated. He didn't fully understand Zerithian technology, but he had seen Ara open doors like this by pressing her hand against the panels. He placed his palm on the surface, hoping it might respond to his altered biology. To his surprise, the panel glowed brighter, and the door slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, the chamber was silent except for the faint hum of machinery. The tanks stood in neat rows, their contents glowing eerily. Liam approached the nearest tank, peering at the figure suspended within. It was humanoid but not fully formed. Its features were smooth and undefined, like a mannequin made of liquid light. "What are you?" Liam whispered. As if in response, a nearby console flickered to life, displaying streams of symbols and graphs. Liam couldn't read the Zerithian language, but one thing was clear: the data was related to him. His name appeared in several places, alongside diagrams of human anatomy and genetic sequences. His heart raced as he scrolled through the data. It was a full biological profile, far more detailed than anything human technology could produce. The Zerithians had mapped his DNA, cataloged his cellular structures, and analyzed his adaptability. "This isn't just research," Liam muttered. "They're building something." A soft sound behind him made him spin around. Era stood in the doorway, her expression unreadable. "You shouldn't be here, Liam," she said softly, stepping into the room. Liam backed away from the tanks, his fists clenched. "What is this, Aura? What are you doing with my DNA?" Era sighed, her translucent skin glowing faintly in the dim light. "You were not meant to see this yet, but perhaps it is time you understood." She gestured toward the tanks. "These are prototypes. They are not alive, not yet. They are vessels designed to house the traits we lack." "Traits you are stealing from me," Liam shot back. Era shook her head. "Not stealing. Borrowing. Your biology is extraordinary, Liam. It holds the key to our survival. Our species has reached a point where we can no longer adapt to the changes in our world. Without help, we will die out." "And you think humanity is the solution?" Liam asked, his voice rising. Era nodded. "Your species is resilient in ways we cannot comprehend. You adapt to environments, survive diseases, and even thrive in chaos. That adaptability is encoded in your DNA. We seek only to incorporate it into our own." "By creating clones," Liam demanded, gesturing to the tanks. "Not clones," Era corrected. "Hybrids. They will be Zerithian, but with the adaptability of humanity. A new generation, capable of surviving and thriving." Liam stared at her, his mind reeling. "You've been planning this all along, haven't you? That's why you invited me here, to use me as a template." Era's expression softened. "You misunderstand. The invitation was genuine. We wanted to share our culture with you, to learn from each other. But when the water bonded with you, it revealed your potential. You are unique, even among humans." "Unique how?" Liam asked, his voice hard. Era hesitated, then stepped closer. "Your DNA shows an extraordinary capacity for resilience and growth. It is as if you were designed for survival, for evolution. That is why the water reacted so strongly to you." Liam took a step back, his mind racing. "And if I don't agree to this, what happens then?" Era's gaze was steady. "We will not force you, Liam. The bond must be mutual. But consider this: without your help, my people will die. We do not ask for this lightly." Liam looked around the chamber, at the tanks glowing softly in the dim light. He wanted to believe Era's sincerity, but the thought of being used, of having his DNA turned into some kind of blueprint for a new species, was almost too much to bear. "Why not just ask for help?" he said finally. "Why go through all this manipulation?" Era's expression grew somber. "Would your people have helped us if we had come to you openly, asking for your DNA? Or would they have seen us as a threat, as invaders?" Liam didn't answer. He couldn't deny that she had a point. Humanity's history with others, whether human or alien, wasn't exactly one of trust and cooperation. Era stepped aside, giving him a clear path to the door. "The choice is yours, Liam." If you wish to leave, you may. But if you stay, you can help us build a future, not just for Zerithians, but for both our species. Liam stared at her, torn between anger, fear, and a strange sense of responsibility. He didn't trust the Zerithians, not entirely, but he couldn't ignore their desperation, or the potential for something greater. As he walked out of the chamber, his mind was filled with questions. What price was he willing to pay for diplomacy? And what would humanity gain, or lose, if he stayed? A hidden agenda. Liam sat in the crystalline dwelling's common area, staring into the faintly glowing liquid Ara had offered him earlier, a drink she called Elatha. Its surface shimmered with colors that shifted like oil on water. He hadn't touched it. Trust was a fragile thing, and after what he had seen in the hidden chamber, his trust in Ara and the Zerithians was hanging by a thread. Ara's words echoed in his mind. "Without your help, we will die." He wanted to believe her. The Zerithians seemed desperate, their survival hanging in the balance. But desperation could make even the most benevolent beings dangerous. He needed answers, real answers, not more soothing reassurances or half-truths. That night, as the twin moons rose over the alien landscape, Liam made his decision. He wouldn't wait for Ara to explain everything at her own pace. He would uncover the truth himself. The Zerithian dwelling was eerily quiet as Liam moved through the glowing corridors, his footsteps muffled by the strange, spongy floor. He had spent hours observing Ara earlier, noting her movements, her routines. He knew she often disappeared into a section of the dwelling she had told him was off-limits, claiming it housed delicate equipment. But Liam knew better now. He reached the door Ara had entered earlier that day. Like the others, it was sealed by a glowing panel. He pressed his hand against it, and the door slid open with a soft hiss. The room beyond was unlike anything he had seen before. It was vast, far larger than he had expected, and filled with complex machinery that hummed quietly in the dim light. Strange, translucent cables snaked across the floor, pulsating with faint, rhythmic light. In the center of the room stood a large cylindrical device, its surface covered in alien symbols and faintly glowing nodes. Liam approached cautiously, his eyes scanning the device. It resembled a massive storage unit, but the faint hum it emitted felt alive. Nearby, a console flickered, displaying streams of Zerithian text and diagrams. Liam couldn't read the language, but one image caught his attention immediately, a human figure surrounded by swirling strands of light. Fascinating, isn't it? Liam spun around, his heart racing. Ara stood in the doorway, her expression calm but her eyes sharp. "What is all this?" Liam demanded, gesturing to the room. Ara stepped inside, her movements slow and deliberate. "This is the heart of our research, the culmination of centuries of effort to save our species." "Research," Liam repeated bitterly. "You mean experimenting on me without my consent?" Ara sighed. "You misunderstand. The water bonded with you because it recognized your potential. Everything we've done since has been to understand that bond, to learn from it." Liam gestured to the cylindrical device. "And what's this?" "Another experiment. Another way to learn from me." Ara hesitated, and for the first time, Liam saw something like guilt flicker across her face. "This device is a failsafe. It is designed to synthesize the traits we need, should the bond fail to provide them naturally." Liam's stomach turned. "So, if I don't cooperate, you'll just take what you need anyway?" "No," Ara said quickly. "That is not our way. The device is a last resort, an option we hope never to use." "Hope isn't the same as a promise," Liam shot back. Ara stepped closer, her voice softening. "Liam, I know this is difficult to understand, but you must see the bigger picture. We are not your enemies. Our survival depends on cooperation, on trust. The bond is meant to be mutual, a gift we share with one another." "Except you didn't ask me before giving it," Liam said, his voice rising. "You took my DNA, my essence, and turned it into data for your experiments. How is that trust? Era fell silent, her gaze dropping to the floor. For a moment, Liam thought she might apologize, but when she looked up, her expression was resolute. You are right, she said. We should have been more transparent. But desperation clouds judgment. I only ask that you consider what is at stake, not just for us, but for both our species. What do you mean, both? Liam asked warily. Era gestured to the console, which now displayed an image of Earth. Your world is not immune to collapse. Climate change, overpopulation, resource depletion. Your species faces its own challenges. The bond could help humanity too. Our knowledge, our technology, it could ensure your survival as well as ours. Liam stared at her, his mind racing. Was she telling the truth? Could the bond really benefit humanity, or was this just another manipulation? I need proof, he said finally. Show me something real, something that proves this isn't just about saving your own skin. Era hesitated, then nodded. Come with me. She led him deeper into the facility, to a smaller room filled with holographic displays. One of the displays showed a human heart, surrounded by glowing strands of light that pulsed in time with its beats. This is a prototype hybrid organ, Era explained. It combines human adaptability with Zerithian resilience. With this, we could eliminate diseases, extend lifespans, even reverse genetic disorders. It's not just for us, Liam. It's for you too. Liam studied the hologram, his skepticism battling with a flicker of hope. If what she was saying was true, the implications were staggering. But he couldn't forget the tanks, the hidden chambers, the way the Zerithians had manipulated him from the start. And if I refuse? He asked quietly. Era's expression hardened. Then we will respect your decision. But without your help, the bond will weaken. Our people will fade. And the knowledge we could have shared will die with us. Liam stared at her, his mind a whirlwind of emotions. He didn't trust her, at least not fully, but he couldn't deny the potential of what she was offering. The question was, could he take that risk? As Era stepped back, giving him space to think, Liam realized he was at a crossroads. Whatever choice he made now would shake not only the future of the Zerithians, but possibly humanity as well. The moral dilemma. Liam stood at the edge of the crystalline dwelling, staring out at the alien landscape bathed in the light of Zerithia's twin suns. The beauty of the world clashed violently with the storm raging in his mind. Era's words echoed over and over. The bond could help humanity too. This is not just about us. But was that true? And even if it was, could he trust a species that had manipulated him from the start? The hybrid organ she had shown him was undeniably impressive. If it worked, it could revolutionize medicine on Earth. But what was the cost? Liam clenched his fists, his thoughts racing. The Zerithians claimed to want partnership, but they had stolen from him his DNA, his trust, and hidden their true intentions behind a veil of cultural exchange. As he stood there, a soft voice broke the silence. You are troubled. Liam turned to see Era approaching. Her translucent skin glowed faintly, reflecting the light of the suns. She walked slowly, her movements careful, as if afraid of pushing him too far. You think? Liam snapped, his frustration spilling over. You've turned me into a science experiment, stolen my DNA. And now you want me to believe this is all for my benefit. Forgive me if I'm having trouble seeing the bond you keep talking about. Era stopped a few steps away, her expression somber. I understand your anger, and I cannot undo the mistakes we've made. But I ask you to look beyond them, to see the future we could build together. Liam laughed bitterly. You mean the future where you create hybrids using my DNA? The future where you keep experimenting until you get what you want? Era flinched at his words, but didn't back down. The future where both our species survive, where humanity gains the knowledge to overcome its challenges, and Zerethia gains the strength to endure. Liam shook his head. You keep talking about survival and partnership, But everything you've done has been one-sided. You've taken without asking, lied to me, and kept me in the dark. How am I supposed to trust you?" Era's gaze dropped to the ground. For a long moment, she didn't speak. Then, with a deep breath, she looked up, her eyes shimmering with a strange intensity. "Perhaps trust is something we must earn," she said quietly. "There is something I have not told you, something that may help you understand." Liam crossed his arms. "Another secret. Great. Let's hear it." Era gestured for him to follow her. "Come with me. This time, I will show you everything." She led him to a part of the dwelling he hadn't seen before, a long corridor that sloped downward into the ground. The air grew cooler as they descended, and the walls glowed with a faint, pulsating light. At the end of the corridor was a large, circular door. Era pressed her hand to a panel, and the door slid open with a low hum. Inside was a vast chamber, its walls lined with intricate carvings that seemed to shift and shimmer in the dim light. At the center of the room was a large, circular platform surrounded by glowing pools of liquid. "What is this place?" Liam asked, his voice hushed. Era stepped onto the platform, gesturing for him to join her. "This is our ancestral archive. It holds the memories of our people, everything we have been, everything we have lost." Liam hesitated, then stepped onto the platform. As soon as he did, the pools around them began to ripple, and beams of light shot upward, forming holographic images in the air. He saw a vision of Zerethia as it once was, lush and vibrant, filled with towering crystalline cities and bustling with life. But the images quickly shifted, showing scenes of devastation. Violent storms, dying landscapes, and Zerethians growing weaker, their translucent skin dimming like fading light bulbs. "Our planet was once thriving," Era said, her voice tinged with sorrow. "But centuries of environmental collapse and genetic stagnation have left us on the brink of extinction. Our bodies can no longer adapt, and our ability to reproduce has dwindled to almost nothing." The holograms shifted again, showing alien ships, human ships, entering Zerethian space. "We reached out to your kind because you represent what we have lost: adaptability, resilience, the ability to thrive even in the harshest conditions. The bond was meant to unite us, to create something new that could save both our species." Liam stared at the images, his anger tempered by a pang of sympathy. The Zerethians weren't just desperate, they were dying. But sympathy wasn't enough to erase his doubts. "You could have told me this from the start," he said. "Why hide it? Why manipulate me?" Era met his gaze, her expression pained. "Because we feared rejection. Your kind has always viewed the unknown with suspicion, even hostility. If we had asked openly, would you have agreed to help us?" Liam didn't answer. He couldn't. She wasn't wrong. Era stepped closer, her voice soft but firm. "We are not perfect, Liam. We made mistakes, and for that I am sorry. But everything we've done has been to save our people. Now we ask for your help, not as an experiment, but as an equal. Will you help us, knowing the truth?" Liam looked at her, his mind a whirlwind of emotions. He wanted to say no, to walk away and leave the Zerethians to their fate. But as he glanced at the holograms, at the images of a dying world and a people clinging to hope, he felt the weight of something larger than himself. He didn't trust Era completely, but he couldn't ignore the stakes. The choice before him wasn't just about the Zerethians, it was about the future of both their species. And deep down, Liam knew he couldn't walk away. The final choice. The room fell silent as the holographic visions of Zerethia's past faded away, leaving only the faint glow of the pools surrounding Liam and Era. The weight of her words, her plea for help, pressed heavily on Liam's chest. He had come to this planet as an ambassador of humanity, hoping for cultural exchange and mutual understanding. Instead, he found himself at the center of a moral and existential crisis, one that could shape the futures of both species. Liam took a deep breath, trying to steady the whirlwind of thoughts in his mind. Let's say I agree to help. What happens then? What exactly are you asking me to do? Era's translucent skin shimmered faintly as she stepped closer. If you agree, we will continue the bond. The water will work with your biology to strengthen the hybrid prototypes. It will refine the traits we need while preserving the essence of both our species. You would not be harmed. Liam narrowed his eyes. You can't guarantee that. You said yourself that the bond reacts differently to everyone. What if something goes wrong? What if I end up like one of those things in the tanks? Era's expression faltered, and for the first time, she looked genuinely uncertain. There is always risk, Liam, but the bond has already shown its strength with you. I believe you can handle it. You believe. Liam snapped, his frustration bubbling over. This isn't just some experiment, Era. This is my life you're asking for. If something goes wrong, there's no turning back. Era lowered her gaze. I understand your fear, and I will not force you to choose. But consider this. Without your help, the bond will fail, and my people will die. You hold the key to something far greater than yourself. Liam, please, think about what's at stake. Liam left the chamber and returned to his quarters, the weight of Era's words bearing down on him like a physical force. He paced the room, his mind a storm of conflicting emotions. The Zerithians were desperate, their survival dependent on his decision. But how could he trust them after everything they had done? He thought about Earth, about humanity's own struggles. Climate change, disease, war, problems that seemed insurmountable at times. Era had offered the possibility of solutions, of technology that could heal the planet and extend human life. If she was telling the truth, the bond could be a turning point for both species. But if she was lying? Liam shook his head, running a hand through his hair. The risks were enormous, but so were the potential rewards. Could he live with himself if he walked away and let an entire species die? The next morning, Liam found Era waiting for him outside his quarters. She looked calm, but there was a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. Have you made your decision? She asked softly. Liam took a deep breath, his heart pounding. I'll do it, but on one condition. Era tilted her head. What condition? No more secrets, Liam said firmly. If I'm going to help you, I need full transparency. No more hidden chambers, no more half-truths. I need to know exactly what's happening every step of the way. Era's expression softened, and she nodded. You have my word, Liam of Earth. From this moment forward, you will know everything. The ritual chamber was different this time. The water still glowed and pulsed with life, but now Liam saw it for what it truly was. A conduit of information, a living bridge between two species. As he stepped onto the platform, Era stood beside him, her presence steady and calm. This time, she said, the bond will go deeper. The water will connect us completely. You will feel its pull, but you must remain open. Trust it. Liam nodded, though his stomach churned with nerves. Let's get this over with. Era poured the shimmering liquid into the basin, and the water began to rise, forming the same dome of liquid that had surrounded them during the first ritual. But this time, the sensation was different. As the water enveloped him, Liam felt a surge of energy, more intense than before. His mind flooded with images, not just memories from his own life, but glimpses of Zerithia's history, its struggles and triumphs. He saw Era as a child, standing in a field of glowing flowers. He saw the first bonding experiments, the failures and heartbreak that had brought the Zerithians to this moment. And then he felt the water reaching deeper, connecting with his very essence. It wasn't just learning from him, it was sharing something in return. He felt a wave of warmth, a sense of unity and purpose that was almost overwhelming. It's working, Era's voice echoed in his mind, calm and steady. The bond is stabilizing. But just as quickly, a surge of pain shot through Liam's body. His vision blurred, and he felt as though he were being pulled apart. What's happening? He gasped. The bond is testing your limits, Era said, her voice tinged with concern. You must hold on, Liam. You're stronger than this. Liam clenched his teeth, forcing himself to focus. He thought about Earth, about humanity's struggles and the possibility of a better future. He thought about the Zerithians, about their desperate fight for survival. And slowly, the pain began to fade. The water pulsed one final time, then receded, leaving Liam gasping for air. When it was over, Ara helped him off the platform, her eyes filled with both relief and admiration. You did it, she said. The bond is complete. Liam felt different. His body hummed with energy, and his mind was clearer than it had ever been. He looked at Ara, and for the first time, he saw not just an alien, but a partner, someone who had placed her hope in him. What now? He asked, his voice steady. Now, Ara said with a small smile, we build a future together.